Hi, I'm Spiders, and I just got a new mic, so I might sound a little different, but besides that, parry trading is an aspect of PvP that will impact virtually every player versus player fight you have in this game, to certain degrees depending on your build. For that reason, if you ever hope of reaching the heights of Deepwoken PvP, it is crucial that you understand parry trades very well, which this video will help you with. Let's get into it. The first tip is one that is seriously key to understanding parry trades, and that is to know your place. Now, I'm only half trolling when I say that. Let me explain. Parry trades in Deepwoken are never fair. One side will always have the advantage, and this is because builds have certain traits that give them advantages in parry trades. Now, there are a pretty large variety of traits that impact parry trades, but some of the big ones are ping, weapon, stat investment, mantras, FPS, and also of course skill. Having a good build for parry trading is really important if you want to parry trade a lot, since having a better build for parry trading kind of defines whether or not it's even worth it to do it in the first place. Builds that are better for parry trading will be easier to land hits on and also have a stronger defense as well, compared to your opponents. For example, if you're a heavy weapon user going against a light weapon user, you probably don't want to parry trade too much, because light weapons are really hard to react to in parry trades, while heavy weapons are super easy to react to, so you'll be at a big disadvantage on that end. And if you're in a big disadvantage in parry trades, it kind of asks the question of whether or not you should even be doing it in the first place. So if you're on a build that's bad at parry trading, instead of just immediately M1ing after parrying, you can instead feint or try to use some mix-up that your build has, in order to avoid directly just M1 parry trading, which, of course, as mentioned, you'll be at the disadvantage of if you're on a bad build for it. Now, if you're on a build that's really good in parry trades, and it has the traits mentioned earlier, such as like low ping, fast swing speed weapon, pretty good mantras in parry trades, and you're also good at it, etc., you can have a lot of success from staying close to your opponent and taking that parry trade battle. This is why knowing your build and knowing your place is important, in order to determine how much you should directly be parry trading, or whether you should adapt your playstyle in a different way, if you're at a big disadvantage. Because if you're trying to parry trade against a 0.98 swing speed macro dagger demon while using a 0.6 swing speed heavy weapon, then that is not going to be a fair fight. And don't let people gaslight you into playing that way. It just doesn't make any sense. And kind of extrapolating from that, my next tip is to never just straight M1 parry trade. Think about it this way: if every time you parry your opponent you immediately M1 afterwards, your opponent's going to start adapting to that, and you'll be extremely predictable, and it'll be very hard to land a hit on your opponent. So instead, use your entire kit, whether that's using uppercuts, M1s, mantras, etc., in order to be less predictable for your opponent. It sounds kind of obvious, but a lot of the time people don't know what to do and they just M1 every time after parrying, which is not creative at all and is really a common sign of a weak offense. So for parry trading in particular, try and figure out what in your kit is going to be helpful as a mix-up in parry trades. Such as if you're a heavy weapon, fast uppercuts can be pretty hard to predict, or if you're a light weapon, you can use a slower guard break to catch your opponent off guard. There's lots of different options for this. Pretty much every build has something besides just M1s that are good for parry trades. But really the key thing here is to think from your opponent's perspective. Don't be predictable and just do the same thing every time after parrying. Instead, try to do something your opponent won't expect, or try to do something based on patterns you recognize in your opponent's gameplay to punish them in a parry trade. Now, if you have those two core concepts of parry trading down, the third, yet a very important tip that you should try and incorporate in your gameplay when parry trading is to adapt depending on the situation. For example, take a look at this clip. Normally, the way parry trades go is that one person attacks, the other person parries and then attacks, and then you parry and attack next in that cycle repeating. However, a pattern that I noticed over the match is that this guy in particular tends to not immediately attack after parrying. So, after he parries me, instead of waiting for my turn after parrying his attack, I just attack him before he can do anything, and I'm able to extend off of that to get lots of damage in. Also, notice that I applied a parry trade mechanic in this fight, even though we both weren't just doing the typical standstill parry trade. This is why I mentioned at the beginning of the video that parry trades are important in every fight, not just fights that are entirely standing there and parry trading, as you might have thought at first. This was just one example, but things like this where parry trade rules are broken and adapted depending on the situation are very common. So even though this is a difficult concept to master, being able to adapt and change the path of parry trades in fights is something that's important to learn. These were what I believe to be the most important tips I have to offer for someone trying to master the art of the parry trade. Let me know if there are any other important pieces of advice you think could be helpful. Like and subscribe for more top content, and see you in the next one.